These people, generally, narcissistic sociopaths, only get worse. And as the more that they face adversity and criticism, they become more detached from reality. And we saw that with the swaying back and forth, cats, dogs. You know, he is saying crazy shit by the hour.
Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. My guest today, you might have heard of him, George Conway.
Hi.
Claudia Conway's father.
Yeah.
Among other things.
It's her birthday today, by the way.
Happy birthday, Claudia.
Happy birthday.
I've been trying to hire her. Every time you get on. All right, George, you sent so many good tweets, but you sent one good one that I want to read here.
Just one.
Because it's so good. You called Donald Trump stupid as well as being ill-tempered. A despicable human being.
No, I didn't do that.
And a narcissist.
I would never say that.
That was not you?
That was Mitch McConnell.
Oh, that was Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Mitch McConnell, yeah.
The producer gave me the wrong notes.
Yeah, and remember how he voted to remove the guy and make sure he
Convict
never
him?
became president?
Is that what happened?
He didn't do that. No. But that's what he felt about the guy.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell was out today with a statement about this. He said, well, J.D. Vance said worse.
Yeah, no, that's right.
I swear to God, that was his statement.
What happened was this AP guy Tackett wrote a bio of McConnell, and McConnell's quoted as saying all these things. He doesn't deny saying them, and he just says, well, other people have said worse. And I thought, I came up with the idea that maybe what they should do, the Harris campaign for the next, I don't know, we could have October Madness, where we take all the quotes about things that people have said about Trump, like Tillerson, he's a moron, and then, we could have playoffs to see who had the best quote about Trump. I mean, you got so many people. You got Kelly, you got Mattis, you've got so many people who've said so many great and accurate things about Donald Trump, and then they're going to vote for him. But I don't know.
The other thing that he said, I want to get to Mattis in a second. The other thing that McConnell said that just had my blood boiling in this book didn't get quite as much attention as despicable human being, because that's a pretty good quote.
Yeah.
He was talking about.
It's an insult to despicable human beings, but yeah.
Yeah, that's true. He was like. He was saying to a friend, or I guess it's his self-notes. I guess he has a voice memo. He thinks very highly of himself. He's like, he's got a life memoir that he voice memos.
That must be the most scintillating thing to listen to.
I know. Just put those to
Taylor Swift, look out.
Yeah, play those when you're going to sleep. And he said that it was clear that there were a bunch of things that Donald Trump did that were indictable. And so he's excited to see what Merrick Garland was going to do.
Yeah.
And that confuses me a little bit, because he voted against convicting him.
Correct.
For the things that he thought were indictable.
Right.
I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, that's why he gave this weird, but it had some great aspects to it, speech right after the impeachment. Immediately after the impeachment trial was gavelled to a close, he took the floor, and he basically called Donald Trump a criminal. He says, there is a criminal law. His position was, because he was no longer president, he could no longer be convicted, which made no sense, because the Constitution doesn't just say that removal is a sanction for a conviction, but also barring from federal office. And he was impeached as president while he was president. And so that position really made no sense, but it was an excuse for him and his colleagues basically not to take any responsibility for it. They didn't want to be the ones who had the fingerprints on removing Trump from public life, and they were cowards.
Yeah.
And then, but they thought, obviously he's going to go away, because that's what all these malignant narcissists through history do, right?
Yeah. They just disappear.
And here we are in Pennsylvania.
What a catastrophic lack of judgment. I'm not a fancy lawyer like you, but that argument never made a lot of sense to me, because it's like, so if you're immune from everything that happens on your way out of office, that means like you kind of get a free day of crime on your last day, right? On inauguration day, you can just start gatting people if you're the president.
There's nothing you can do. 24/7 now.
Yeah. Okay, got it. So it's no longer one day of crime on your day out. Now it's whole. That's pretty dark. Okay. Well, while we're in darkness, I had Bob Woodward on the pod this morning for people here live. Yesterday for people listening, he was great. Yeah. So he did tell me one thing that kind of annoyed me a little bit. But, you know, I have a lot of respect.
You're easily annoyed, though.
I am. I have a lot of respect for Bob Woodward, so I didn't want to, you know, derail the podcast with my own issues. But he was like, yeah, I was asking him, I said, oh, you had this great reveal where Mark Milley went up to you at a party, and he said Donald Trump's a fascist. He's the most dangerous thing to the country. It's a very important thing to say. I would have maybe said it, I don't know, publicly, instead of just to Bob Woodward at a party, but that's just me. And then I said, I noticed you mentioned in the book that Jim Mattis was also at the party, so I'm wondering what he said to you. And Bob said, well, he didn't say anything to me then, but he emailed me 3 days ago telling me that everything that is in the book is right. And I was like, why is he emailing you? Does he not have access to Zoom? Is it FaceTime? Does he not have a phone? I'm sure Nicole Wallace would have him on TV if he wants to do it. We could send Barry to his house. We could tape a video. I think he could walk into 400 North Cap and MSNBC. They'd put him right on if he, you know, if he's going to say that. See, you know, it's There's
crazy.
A lot of access.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Well, what's happening with that? And I had this discussion with another former flag officer, U.S. Army flag officer, the other day, and they have this weird belief that former generals, retired generals, should not express political opinions publicly. And
just in emails and at parties.
Right, just in emails and at cocktail parties.
To the most famous reporter in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And
got it.
You know, and I think part of the logic is, well, they're still technically commissioned because they're getting pensions, and we don't want to. And you know, it's like, nobody out there is going to make that distinction. And the other point about it is the idea that military officers in uniform should stay out of politics and not take political. Let's leave apart of all the presidents we've had who were generals, and the fact that fucking McClellan ran for president against Lincoln in the middle of the Civil War. Let's put all that history aside.
And that he was Secretary of Defense.
Yeah,
a civilian title.
Mattis was Secretary of Defense. Kelly was Chief of Staff. Both political appointees. It doesn't make sense because the purpose of that stricture, that ethical stricture, and maybe there's something in the UCMJ about it, is to make sure that there is civilian and constitutional control over the military. And here we're talking about a guy they know and they think is a fascist, and they are criticizing privately and in emails and at cocktail parties because they think he would use the military unconstitutionally to defeat his domestic enemies. I mean, he says that. They know that. And these guys are, I mean, the two groups of people who best understood what Trump was going to become were...
Never Trump podcast hosts.
Yeah, that's like this little... Okay. No, the two big groups were psychiatrists and psychologists, mental health professionals, because they saw the they saw the personality disorders. I mean, you just, I mean, I like to wave these things around. You just check the boxes. The guy, you know, you only have to have 3 out of 7 of the for the ones for sociopathy, and he's like 7 for 7. He's like, you know, and the other group were people whose professions depended upon a study and knowledge of history, which would include history professors, political science professors, comparative government professors, diplomats, and military types. And they saw this first. That's why in 2016 we saw these long lists of bipartisan former diplomats and State Department officials saying this guy is dangerous because they saw the personality type. There was actually a third group. The third group were abused spouses. I'm not joking. They saw it like, oh, this guy, he's like my, you know, ex-husband, and he's bad news. And he's like worse than that. Melania hasn't got that message yet. But no, that's the whole thing about it, is these guys are they know better, and they are in a position to say it. And if they care about keeping the military out of politics, they need to say something to keep this man out of the White House, because that's basically... basically, this guy, he wants civilian control over the military, but he wants that civilian to be him and for his own purposes only, and not for those of of the United States of America, all of us, and its Constitution.
Indeed. I want to get one other thing from you.
Did I say too much there?
No, that's really great. Keep going. I'll let you know. I got a hook right back here. If you start going a little too long, I listened to that podcast you do with Sarah Longwell, and sometimes you just jab.
Just hit the button.
Like, is Sarah still there?
I know, we get all these letters there. You talk over Sarah too much. But that's because she asked me questions.
But I have a legal question for you right now that's related to the Woodward book. The other thing that we've learned is that apparently, allegedly at least, he's having secret calls with Vladimir Putin, up to 7. We don't exactly know. Susan Rice got very mad at me when I was like, would we know if that was happening? And she was like, I'm not allowed to say. And I was like, but really, would we know? And she's like, next question, Tim. I was like, yes, ma'am.
I've seen all the Bourne movies, and they have listened to all of them.
They know, right?
Yes.
They would know. Okay, so assuming that's happening, there's some smart people out there, including Susan Rice, who are like, this is a violation of the Logan Act. And that kind of seems like a fake act to me. So is that true? Is that a violation of the Logan Act? Can we jail him over this?
It depends on what he's saying. If he's purporting to represent what the United States of America should be doing and would be doing under a Trump administration,
seems like what
I
he'd be
think
talking
that
about.
Well, maybe they're talking about
The sexual proclivities in
hotels
hotel red
on
rooms.
the Black Sea, and maybe even a building project on the Black Sea. I don't know. Maybe building a big wall. I don't know. So I don't know.
Could be talking about,
No, I mean, you have to wonder. And one of these days, and we're all going to be dead, but like it'll be 60 or 70 years from now. Maybe you have kids who will get to see this. All the archives of these intelligence agencies throughout the world today are going to open up, and somebody's going to get to see what they thought of Donald Trump and how they thought they were manipulating him and could try to manipulate him.
And the transcripts of the calls are going to be so stupid. Like, people in the future are going to be like, why did they speak at a kindergarten level in 2024?
Could you imagine being the Russian translator trying to...
Very good. Very strongly. I very strongly want Vladimir Putin to do nice things for me. All right. What else do we got for you? The psychopath that you're doing, talk to us about that. Anti-Psychopath, Psychopath pack. You've been running some ads. Well, explain the pack, and then I want to talk about the ads.
I've been on this kick for 5-6 years now about basically the way you understand Donald Trump, and he becomes eminently predictable in a lot of ways, is by understanding the severe, clearly defined personality disorders that he has that are listed. And I was no expert in psychology. Now the shrinks tell me, you explain it better than we do. But
is that one of the signs of narcissistic personality disorder?
No one has explained narcissistic personality disorder better than me. Many people tell me this. Many people.
Yeah. Trump has 7 out of 7. George only has 4. I've got 3.
Okay. So,
not a big deal.
But because I had no freaking clue about this, and I'm wondering, I was offered the job of head of the Civil Division of the United States Department of Justice, becoming an Assistant Attorney General, and then I'm watching this shit show as it proceeds in early 2017. I actually was going over to the Justice Department to help pick the people who were going to work for me, and then I realized I can't do this. Particularly after the appointment of the special counsel by Rod Rosenstein, Mueller, I thought, okay, I'm going to join a department that this guy is going to be at war with for 2 years. And I decided not to do it. But I kept puzzling about it. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? And I was reading, and I'd read, and I'd think, and finally, I came across an article in, of all places, Rolling Stone. And a very good writer named Alex Morris.
She's great.
She's great. She basically said, the title of the article was, "Does Donald Trump have narcissistic personality disorder?" And I'm reading, what's that? And it has 9 criteria. And she went through the criteria, and it's like, oh, that's it. He only cares about himself. He has no empathy. And, you know, all these things, he likes to brag falsely about his imagined achievements. I mean, you're check, 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 check. And then I said, this is the key to understanding the guy. And so I started reading more, and then I saw, wait a minute, he's also a sociopath. He lies, uses aliases. Remember how he used to call up the media in New York?
Barron.
John Barron, John Miller.
Then he named his kid after his alias?
Yeah, he has.
That's really fucking weird.
Yeah. And, you know, and he has absolutely no remorse. The only time he ever expressed anything approaching remorse was when he said that, you know, he sort of apologized for the Billy Bush tape or what he said on there, and then 2 months later, after the election was over, he was saying, he literally told the New York Times that he was telling the United States senators that the tape was fake. Okay, I mean, so this guy just checks all the boxes, and it occurred to me as a lawyer, I kind of combined that with my understanding of the obligations of a president under Article 2, which is the founders viewed the presidency as a fiduciary position. In the same, you know, fiduciaries, I litigated that. I was a corporate lawyer. We did lots of litigation of corporate law in Delaware, and it's all about, all its issue is fiduciary duties. You have, as a CEO, you have an obligation to work into the best interest of the country, not just line your pockets. Well, they do both. I mean, not in the best interest of the company. And this was the ultimate fiduciary position. And the question is, if someone who cares only about themselves and only uses everyone else and all the instruments of power around him to benefit himself, has no empathy, has no remorse, is incapable of telling you, how could that person possibly be a fiduciary? And the answer is he couldn't. So I wrote this long 11,000-word article that was published like five years ago in like 2 weeks. Yeah. And you know, that I've been on that kick ever since, because that's the way that Donald Trump makes sense only if you look at him through that prism.
And I think that from...
And the other point is that the people who have that...
We'll get to me in a minute. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm not... I talk a lot.
Yeah, you talk a lot. If you
I'll take another bourbon and Coke, though, when anybody gets a chance. No rush.
The people who, you know, the concept of this narcissistic sociopathy, which is also described in some as malignant narcissism, and it's very closely related. I mean, that was a concept developed by a psychologist named Erich Fromm, whose family escaped Germany just before the onset of World War II, and he wanted to try to explain the minds of Hitlers and Stalins and all of these people. And it explains authoritarians. It explains that these personality characteristics are generally shared by authoritarians and cult leaders. And here we are.
It's important to bring in the Nazis, so I'm glad you added that that last point.
Yeah. So go back to Psychopath, it was like...
As we think about this fifth race. But on the Psychopath pack thing, because I want to get to the ads. I think the important political insight that was bred out of all of that 5 years later is how to bait him. And some of that is in the ads that you've been playing that I want to get to in 1 second. But first, the vice president's learned a little something about this. And just today, just a couple hours ago in Wisconsin, she had some protesters. And there's a very funny exchange that we're going to listen to now.
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
And the crowd really enjoyed that. And she used it to very good effect at the debate in a way that, frankly, none of the 15 Trump primary opponents did. in 16 that Hillary didn't and that Biden didn't. Biden did some other things well. But she's used kind of the insights from combating a narcissism better than I think any of his other opponents. Don't you agree?
I absolutely agree with that. And that's that's part of the drums I was I've been beating for so long. And last year, I mean, at a little conference held by a competitor magazine.
Oh, we don't have any competitors. It's all good.
Okay,
It's all love.
No,
unless they're for Trump. Are they for Trump?
No.
As long as they're not for Trump, it's all good.
It was an anti-Trump summit. I was basically saying, you got to needle the guy. Because he's like, you remember the squirrel, the dogs in the movie Up? And whenever a character would say squirrel, they'd lose their shit. And they become completely dry. That's Donald Trump when it comes to any form of criticism. And that's why, we saw just like 2 weeks ago, he says, people are saying I fell into a trap at the debate. There was no trap. I didn't fall in a trap. And he's falling right into the trap again. So, he just cannot. Once he hears a criticism, particularly if it is something, narcissists are very insecure, okay? They pretend to be the boldest and most courageous and the strongest and the most imperturbable people in the world, but they are driven by deep insecurity. And he has deep insecurity about a lot of things. This is one. He's insecure about his, whether he's...
That's another one.
Yeah, no, so anyway, there's nothing you can say about it. He's insecure about so many things. And if you keep poking him about it, he will talk about that. When he should be talking about the things that I am sure the Susie Wiles and all these people are telling him to talk about. You have to talk about immigration. You have to talk about economy. You have to talk about this. He can't help himself. And that was, the 4 objects of psychopath were 1, to point out the personality disorders that Trump has. 2 is to show why they're dangerous to the country. 3 is to get the media to talk about it, which they're finally a little bit starting to do. And the 4th was to trigger him into displaying these characteristics. And what I'm so grateful for now is the Democrats figured some of this out, and that's what they did. As soon as they switched candidates, you saw some of that needling, and they're ramping it up again. I think they did it for a while just before the convention and after. It worked, and now they're bringing it up again. And we've seen his behavior lately. It is getting worse because these people, generally, narcissistic sociopaths, only get worse, okay? And as the more that they face adversity and criticism, they become more detached from reality. And we saw that with the swaying back and forth. We saw it when he's saying that all of Kamala's crowds that first week when she became the presumptive nominee, they were all AI, cats, dogs. He is saying crazy shit by the hour. And I think that the Harris campaign is going back to that attack, and I hope they do for the last couple of weeks of the campaign, because she's, at least twice I've heard her say, he is increasingly unstable and unhinged.
Yes.
And I think that should be, I think you'll need a little positive, you have to finish a campaign with a little positive note, which I think we saw a little of that yesterday. I thought that was just, I don't know if you saw the event up in Washington Crossing where she really was putting forth a vision. We're not going to be a unified country in the sense that we're all going to be agreeing on everything, but we agree that we live in a democracy where we need to work together, we need to compromise, we need to discuss things rationally, and we need to support whoever wins an election. And, that's her positive message. She's going to be president for all the people. But leading up to the next 2 weeks, I think they really ought to hit hard this his cuckoo.
Yeah, Cookie losing his marbles. All right, last topic.
He only had a couple to begin with.
I like the. Are people familiar with these names? Natasha Stoyanov, Amy Doris, Jessica Leeds. Do we know their names? Yeah, not enough people. Why don't everybody give them a round of applause? They're in George's recent ads.
And E. Jean.
And E. Jean Carroll. Everybody's going to know E. Jean, so I was going to make my point. I want to play one of those ads now.
Women, because I am your protector. I want to be your protector. You're not going to be in danger any longer. I did try and fuck her. She was married. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Donald Trump shut the door and pushed me up against the wall and bang my head and kissed me. It was so shocking.
Trump leads me to this room, pushes me against the wall, and starts kissing me forcefully.
Trump suddenly started groping me. He was trying to kiss me, and I'm trying to push him away.
He was sort of touching me all over my body. I pushed him away. He just shoved his tongue in my mouth, started kissing me.
And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
It was not pleasant. It was not welcomed. It was not consensual.
And he put his shoulder against me to hold me against the wall.
I tried to push him. He kept coming back at me.
He was basically overpowering me.
I used my teeth to push his tongue out of my mouth.
I felt sick inside.
He started putting his hand up my skirt.
Grab him by the pussy. I can do anything.
And he pulled down the tights. That was when it turned serious.
Donald Trump is an adjudicated sexual assaulter.
Donald Trump is a serial sexual predator. He even says it. He's told everybody, this is what I do. Donald Trump says he's going to protect women. He harms women. He sexually assaults women. He has no respect for women.
We cannot elect this man as president.
Anti-Psychopath PAC Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
And here's the thing. I've been on this for a while, and it pissed me off, honestly, during the first Trump administration, that I think that there was this conventional wisdom that sunk in that, like, when he won after the grab him by the you-know-what video, people were like, well, people don't care about the sexual assaults anymore, so we're not going to talk about it in the media. It was like my one real big media criticism from the first term. And I'm like, that's not true, because more information came out about Summer Zervos, about Amy Doris, and some of these as the administration went on, and they just didn't get the attention they deserved. And I'm happy you're running those ads. So just talk to us a bit about those ads and what you're trying to get out of them.
I mean, it was born of an idea. I tried in 2019, 2020, I tried to organize, I tried to get a documentary film made of all the women. Because I thought, after reading all about them, I thought that if you laid their stories back to back and side by side, there's just no question he did it, right? Because the two things that we learned during the Me Too episodes about what kind of brings, a sexual assault or harassment situation often can be just two people in a room and it's a swearing match. But the things that prove these cases in a court of law or a court of public opinion or in the newspapers is there a pattern? Because we know these guys never do this just once. And the second is the contemporaneous testimony or statements of the people who heard the victim express shock and sorrow and anger and frustration soon after it happened. And so I thought it would be great to basically do a documentary that would do as many of the women as possible. The problem, and I had a guy interested in it, the guy who did the whose name escapes me around, but he did the baseball one about the Bartman catch.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
Yeah, but he couldn't get funding for it because everybody was terrified to do it. HBO wouldn't fund it. They couldn't fund it. And then that idea had always stuck with me. And with Psychopath, this is this behavior, not just the sexual assault, but the continual lying and maligning of his victim, E. Jean Carroll and the others, it cost him $83 million additional dollars
All right.
You know, because he kept lying about her. The punitive damages, I forgot what they were, but it was like he absolutely has no compunction. His lies were patently ridiculous. I never met her. Excuse me, there was a photograph. Okay, he's accused of rape, and his answer is, she's not my type. Yeah, so it occurred to me, like, let's just do testimonials. Let's just do as many of them as we can, and I wish we had more time. And we did 3 of them. We couldn't do E. Jean because E. Jean has 2 appeals in the Second Circuit where she's got $88.3 million riding on us. But we used some clips from her to do.
I thought it was actually good that it was people that folks
yeah, no,
weren't
they were
familiar
free
with.
people. People hadn't seen before, and we tested those. Sarah's people tested those, and they were very effective, even among Trump voters. And I wish I had 20 more millions of dollars, and you'd be watching. You'll be seeing it on Channel 6 here. But and I'm glad we did that. I wish we could do more. But every little vote counts. So.
Well, we appreciate it. Hometown boy, George Conway. Sorry about the Sixers. Never quite happens for the Sixers, Never quite get there. Poor Joel Embiid. But I really appreciate it.